topic. It is an experiment. I always love to challenge myself, and I love to challenge you. And I hope this is going to go well. What we're about to learn is a mimer of the Rebbe on Chanukah. Chanukah is just over 30 days away. You're supposed to learn about a Yontif 30 days prior. This is a mimer, which, it's actually in English, which I would like to share with you. We're going to do it slowly. Now, the Rebbe's Maimarim are not that easy. The Rebbe's Maimarim are, the Rebbe's discourses, our Rebbe's discourses, can often be nuclear and difficult to understand, but let's give it a shot. Let's see how this goes. I'm sure that you'll challenge me if there's something that bothers you, right?
Of course.
So let's do this. Let's go straight into this. What does Chanukah mean to you, folks? Let's do a quick refresher. What does Chanukah mean to you, Nikki? Give me in one phrase or less. Kindling, light, what?
Family.
Family. Beautiful. Velva, what does Chanukah mean to you?
Miracle.
Miracle. Miracle. Okay, 1 second. So that means you believe in miracles?
It's a miracle you still I've been told that I should. I do.
Hang on. I asked you a different question.
Yeah.
I asked you if you, you believe in miracles. Let's get personal now. You believe in a miracle in your life. Can you experience a Chanukah miracle? Can you? Do you believe that you can?
Yeah.
Beautiful. And I want to remind you, Velva, laser, when you light those Chanukah candles, the second blessing that you say is Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Olam. Blessed are you. Not even blessed, as Andy will remind you. Blessed. The word Baruch means invitation. I'm inviting you, Havaya, God Almighty, who's also not just Almighty, but is also the master of all the tiny incy-weensy details. Hashem Elokeinu, master of the world. She'asa nisim la'aviseinu, who made miracles for our ancestors by Yom Haim in those days. Bizman hazeh, in these days. Right? Reminder, beautiful. I love your answer. Anyone else? What does Chanukah mean to you? Let me modify the question. How does Chanukah challenge you? Or is it just another cute, idiosyncratic Jewish ritual where we're lighting candles? We put the candles in business, us Jews. Candle business.
Celebration for the kinder.
Celebration for the kinder. So that certainly does not challenge you very much. It's just an excuse to sort of give presents or something, right?
It's a balance for the another Hebrew victory.
Oh, so it's another Hebrew victory. This is important to understand. Enough of the victories. We won so many people. We won every war, right? Right? Somebody showed me a few minutes ago that the ICC has put out an arrest warrant on Bibi Netanyahu. Mazel tov. They want to join the ranks of failed states. Okay, good. Anybody who fights other Jews loses. Okay, that's just the rule of history. I don't know how long they need to learn this. I feel, by the way, what's going on in the world today. All these nations that come into battle with Israel. Yemen, who even asked you? Who even knew that you existed, Bichlal? Iraq is even a country still? Seriously, Iraq? I mean, what is this place, right? And they're sending missiles to Israel. They're finding Russian weapons in Israel. Turkey's hosting Hamas now. I think that what's happening is we're coming to the end of days, and Hashem is pulling these nations by the nose to fight against Israel. They know they're going to lose. You want to look like Gaza? You want to look like southern Lebanon? You know what's going to happen to you if you mess with us, right? But they're coming, they're being pulled by the nose. Either way, back to the topic we're talking about. So you're saying it's another victory, but how does that challenge you? Other than putting another feather in your hat so you can strut around like a peacock and say, we're the chosen people. Tzipi says that it's the few overwhelming the many. The few overwhelming the many. That's what she says. Now that is a big deal.
It's also saving real Judaism.
Hang on, one thing at a time. One process. Hold that thought. I was going to finish with Tzipi here. Tzipi's saying it's the few overwhelming the many. Now that's a challenging thought because that's what's happening right now. We're like, the whole world says we're violating international law, right? By the way, when did this become international law? Is it international law that Israel is an occupying state? The answer is wrong. Actually, Israel has every right to be where Israel is. Let's be very clear about that. Whenever somebody throws this international law, what they're referring to is United Nations Security Council resolutions, right? For example, the one at the end of the Obama presidency, when Obama refused to condemn the fact that Israel was occupying the West Bank or something, right? So that suddenly became international law because a bunch of anti-Semitic nations, right, decided in a meeting that, in a non-binding resolution, by the way, they decided that this is in violation. So who made you the judge and the jury? Nobody knows. It's not international law. If you want international, okay, whatever. So anyway, so the fact that we today are fighting, the few that are fighting the many, that's a very personal topic right now. When you start looking at Hanukkah in that sense, when the Greeks were invading our homeland, and somehow we miraculously managed to drive them out, to be victorious over them, it's like, whoa, okay. We're fighting with many, many more numerous enemies than we are. Okay, that's becoming already personal. How about you, Marty? What are you about to say?
What I was saying is that it really saved real Judaism, as opposed to the Greeks didn't come in just to kill the Jews and take over.
Oh.
They want to take over the
So
mind.
Marty's throwing in a whole new angle now. He's going from the physical, from the military, to the spiritual. Well, what you're saying is that Hanukkah really is a very, very different war to the other wars that we waged. Unlike what you said, Rob, that it's just another victory. It's not just another victory because it's a unique victory. This is a victory over those who waged spiritual battle against the Jews. In other words, whereas other battles were waged against Jews, this battle of the Greeks was waged not against the Jews, but against Judaism. Against Judaism. And that's a very important point, a question which we have to really ponder about what kind of time we're living in today. Think about this a moment, right? Where we're living in a generation today where most people, I think it's safe to say that most people don't make it to morning minyan. Am I right?
99%.
I don't know about 99%, but most people, I would say more people don't make it to morning minyan than do make it to morning minyan, right? So it's a question where you're wondering, like, is there any hope for our people? It's a very important question. Is there any hope for our people where it seems like we're losing a battle of assimilation? Today, it seems like we're losing a battle of assimilation where most Jews, or let's say more Jews, have lost the plot than have gotten the memo, right? On our identity, right? I mean, just think about yesterday. You have this Jewish senator in Congress, in the Senate, and he's leading a charge to create an arms embargo against Israel in a war that we didn't start. It's unthinkable almost. It's like, where does this even come from? Well, he's not alone. I'm sure he's supported with other people, and I'm sure he even has a rabbi. No, he probably doesn't have a rabbi, but I'm sure there's people that support people like this. There are other Jews out there, and there's many of them, and there's probably more of them than us, that they actually believe that Israel is evil, and Israel is the aggressor, and Israel needs to cease fire, and Israel needs to calm down, and Israel needs to comply with what other nations say because they're afraid of the other nations, because their faith is not in God. Their faith is in other nations. That's what they believe in. This is their idol, right? So here we live in a time where you could easily become despondent in saying, this whole Judaism experiment didn't bode so well, 4,000 years down the road. We're still a minority. If you think about it, we still, those Jews that lay tefillin, that keep kosher, that keep Shabbat, that observe the 613 mitzvahs, I don't know, I think they're kind of a minority. And you think, whoa, is there any hope? Well, comes the Hanukkah story. What does the Hanukkah story tell us? That in the Hanukkah story, when the Greeks waged battle against the Jewish people, and again, they weren't fighting against the Jews. They were fighting against Judaism. They were not trying to kill the Jews like the other nations. They were trying to assimilate the religion of Judaism into their culture. And they were wildly successful, by the way. Like the American culture in which we live, it was a very seductive culture, very attractive, very appealing. And most Jews, the overwhelming majority of Jews, actually became Hellenized Jews. The word Hellenized is a form of Greek. It means Greekified. They become like Greeks. I'm not sure who Hellen is, but Hellenized is an adjective to describe becoming Greek culture. So most Jews were Hellenized. And in fact, Most Jews assimilated. They changed their names. If you think of a name like Jason, the name Jason. Jason is a name, an original Jewish name like Yosef, Yosor, Yochanan, and they changed it to Jason because it was too Jewish, right? And they wanted to make it more secular because they wanted to assimilate into this culture. And they abandoned Jewish religion. They abandoned monotheism. They worshipped idols. That's what they did in the temple. Again, they weren't trying to destroy the temple. They just wanted to bring the Greek culture into Israel, into the Jewish people. And most Jews actually succumbed to that. It was the Maccabees, like Tzipi pointed out, were a minority of Jews. In other words, when Tzipi says that it was the minority who overwhelmed the majority, it wasn't only the fact that a small group of Jews overwhelmed the Greek invading army, which is much bigger. It was actually that a small group of loyalist Jews overwhelmed the majority of Jews that had assimilated, and that's a big deal. Now that is becoming very personal to us. Why is that becoming very personal to us? Because this is exactly what we're experiencing today. This is exactly how, I don't know how you feel, but I think it's safe to say that religious Jews or faithful Jews are somewhat outnumbered, and you feel like you're in the minority. So Hanukkah becomes a very great source of strength to us to be able to fight our battles today. This is no longer a story of ancient history. This is something deeply personal, deeply relevant, and something which we need to dive into now, something which we need to dive into right now to be able to unlock the code. There's a code which we need to crack. What is it that happened in Hanukkah? What did they do? How did the minority of loyalist Jews manage to overwhelm the majority of Jews that were assimilated? Imagine if we could figure that out. We might be onto something to be able to make another Hanukkah miracle today. And that's what we're going to do today. That's this new discourse that we're taking on. It's a discourse that the Rebbe delivered in 1977 on Hanukkah, the last day of Hanukkah, and it's based on a Mishnah. The Mishnah tells us in Tractate Shabbos that the mitzvah of the Hanukkah lights begins when the sun sets. And it's that phrase that the Rebbe makes as the headline of this game-changing discourse. And now we know where we're going. Mark, you had a question?
Yes. Is Hanukkah where it started, where the process of not having intermarriages, was that
No, the prohibition against intermarriage began at Mount Sinai 3,337 years ago, when God gave us the Torah and he made us the chosen people, and he commanded us to marry only into our own faith, right? And he prohibited us from marrying anyone that we fell in love with. I gave a class this week about falling in love. There's a song about falling in love, right? Falling in love, right? Okay, whatever. I'm not the cantor for a reason, but if you fall in love, you fall out of love, right? You don't want to fall anywhere to do with love. You wanna what's it called? Aim. You wanna locked and loaded. You want to be aim, ready, fire, right? As opposed to just, I just fell into love, right? So we don't believe that. We don't believe that you can just fall in love. You can just marry whoever you want. Marriage is mindful. And just like you watch what you eat, just like you watch what you say, just like you watch what you hear, and you watch what you do, you even watch what you think, by the way, you're supposed to also watch who you marry. And that started way before Hanukkah. However, maybe to your point, I think during the Hanukkah period, when Jews were assimilating, many of them were probably marrying out of the faith. Yeah. Okay. Just a couple comments coming in here. I love you forever, dearest Braveheart brother, Rabbi Dovid. Oh, cool. Thanks. It's quite a thing for the godless to say that God, who can do anything, can't have a chosen people. Gabe, I'm not sure what you're referring to. It's quite a thing for the godless to say that God, who can do anything, can't have a chosen people. I'm not sure what you're referring to. All right, good. When I say that I'm one with God and Mashiach, people generally think that is impossible for some reason. All right, I'm not following, but whatever. Amy, good morning, and to everybody else that's here with us, it's a pleasure to see you. So let's just get our toes wet in the beginning of this discourse. I don't have a copy for everybody, so just bear with me. Just like go with the flow, right? This piece of Talmud is based on Shabbat, tractate Shabbat in the Talmud, 21b. And maybe we'll do it eventually when we do this over the next few weeks and until Hanukkah. Our sages taught that the time for the mitzvah of the Hanukkah lights begins when the sun sets and extends until people are no longer found in the marketplace. Until what time are you allowed to light the Hanukkah lights? Can you light the Hanukkah lights until whenever you want? The answer is no. The Mishnah gives a very curious answer as to how long you're allowed to go until you're no longer able to light the Hanukkah lights. Let's say you were at a wedding and you came home at 2 o'clock in the morning and you didn't light your Hanukkah lights. Can you still light the Hanukkah lights? The Brisa answers, to which Rabbi Chana said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, you're allowed to light the Hanukkah lights until the Tarmudoi are no longer found in the marketplace. If there's still Tarmudoi in the marketplace, you're good. But if all the Tarmudoi have left the marketplace, you can't. The who? The Tarmudoi were a group of people who sold firewood in the marketplace. Now, the marketplace is a messy place, right? So when everybody leaves, that's when there's always like spare wood flying around. You know, there's crates and barrels and things that people leave behind. And they use that, the stuff that people discard. They kind of like the garbage collectors, you know? You ever notice that you put something out on the curb, right? By morning, if you come before the garbage truck, oftentimes it's gone. You know, there's people that just like, they kind of pick up the garbage because they figure they're not stealing. You know, you're going to throw it out anyways. I might as well take your, you know, whatever you're throwing out. That's what these guys are doing, the Tarmudoi. They're kind of the garbage collectors. They're picking up the scraps, right? So they would sell the firewood in the marketplace, and people would only find that they didn't have, many people would come home and they'd be like, oh, it's cold. So now they're going to go looking for firewood. At the end of the day, the Talmudoi would stay in the marketplace later than everyone else so they could provide wood for such customers. In this discourse, the Rebbe will focus on the terms of the Talmud used to describe the start and the end for the mitzvah of the Hanukkah lights. So just to start it off, the Talmud states the time for the mitzvah of the Hanukkah lights begins when the sun sets mishatishka hachamo and extends until people are no longer found in the marketplace, specifically until the Tarmudoi are no longer found in the marketplace. Now, this is very unusual because when it comes to other lights, when do we light the other candles? Which other candles do we light? Shabbos. When do you light the Shabbos candles?
Before Shabbos.
You know, why are they even called Shabbos candles? I guess they're supposed to burn on Shabbos. They're not supposed to be lit on Shabbos. You don't ever light your candles on a Friday night, ever. God forbid. You're not allowed to light candles on Friday night. They're Friday afternoon candles. They're Erev Shabbos candles, right? You light them not from sunset, but until sunset. So here's the question. The previous Chabad Rebbes pointed out that the time for the kindling of the Hanukkah lights differs from the time when the menorah was lit in the Holy Temple and from the time when the Shabbos candles are lit. Shabbos candles, we know, you light before dark. But even the Hanukkah lights are there to remind us of what? Our Hanukkah candles remind us of the way they lit the menorah in the Holy Temple. When did they light the menorah in the Holy Temple? Before dark. Interesting. Whereas,
we have Yortzeit candles also.
Now, Yortzeit candles are really not a mitzvah. They're just a Kabbalistic custom. Whereas all what we're talking here is a mitzvah. Okay, so whereas the Hanukkah menorah is lit after sunset, both the menorah in the temple and the Shabbos candles, which are mitzvahs, are lit before sunset. The menorah in the temple was lit after the time known as Plaga Mincha, which is a very important time. Plaga Mincha is a very important time, and if you open your app, your handy Siddur app, you know, the Chabad Siddur, you'll notice that you'll always see the Plaga Mincha. If you go to the Times, I'll tell you what Plaga Mincha is today. So, for example, today, dawn is at 5:29, the latest Shema is at 9:23, sunset is at 5:28, and nightfall is at 5:53. But the Plaga Mincha, which is half of Mincha, is at 4:24. 4:24 would be the earliest legal definition of night. Now, even though sunset doesn't happen until 5:28, 4:24 today is the legal time called Plaga Mincha. It's the earliest time that you're allowed to do anything related to the night. You're allowed to accept Shabbos from Plaga Mincha. If you want to go early, you're allowed to daven Ma'ariv, the evening service from Plaga Mincha. So that's like the earliest definition of night, but it's like good 45 minutes to an hour before actual sunset, right? So the menorah in the temple was lit while it was pure daylight, but it was after Plaga Mincha, which is 1 1/4 seasonal hours before sunset. Shabbos candles are lit before sunset as well, because it is forbidden to light a candle on Shabbos, which begins at sunset. So seemingly the mitzvah of lighting the Chanukah menorah should be modeled after the way that the mitzvah was performed in the temple. So why is it that we open our discourse today that the Chanukah lights are lit after dark, whereas they're coming to recall the menorah lights in the temple, which were lit before dark, as are the Shabbos candles. So since the rabbinic mitzvah of kindling the Chanukah lights, remember, it's a rabbinic mitzvah, the 613 Torah commandments, and the 7 rabbinic mitzvahs. What are the 7 rabbinic mitzvahs? Chanukah and Purim, Kiddush and Havdalah, Shabbos candles, I think the Eruv, pretty sure the Eruv, and also I'm forgetting it right now. It doesn't matter. Either way, the Chanukah lights and the Shabbos candles are both rabbinic mitzvahs, right? So since the rabbinic mitzvah of kindling the Chanukah lights was established because of the miracle that occurred with the menorah in the temple, and considering the general principle of quote, when called the tikkun rabbanon the kain deraisa tikkun, whenever the rabbis made an injunction, whenever the rabbis made a rule, enacted a rule, it followed the model established by the Torah. Therefore, one would think that the kindling of the Chanukah lights should be the same as. It would therefore seem most appropriate to kindle the Chanukah lights before sunset, just like the menorah lights in the temple and the Shabbos candle lights. Well, the Shabbos candles again are rabbinical. Nevertheless, the time to kindle the Chanukah lights is specifically after sunset. What we're going to do next is to discuss the answer of the previous Chabad Rebbes for next time. What was that? I can't hear you. Can you say something?
Illumination of the Hanukkah candles is important for others to see. That's why we put them in the windowsill.
So Velver is telling us, he's saying, 1 second, what's the purpose? What's the purpose of the Chanukah candles? The Chanukah candles is lit in a unique place. It's on the window. He says, 1 second, if the candles are being lit on the window, then the purpose has got to be for people to see it. When do you want people to see the candles? The menorah of the temple was lit inside the holy temple, like in the building. But these are lit on the window. So clearly their purpose is to illuminate the dark. Maybe that's the reason you're saying that the Chanukah candles are lit after dark, because their purpose is to illuminate the dark, right? And maybe that's why they're going to be lit after dark. Now you're onto something for sure. This is where the discourse is going. What we're going to explore. Remember, I framed this before by telling you that we're going to learn how the faithful few, will overwhelm the unfaithful majority. We're dealing with a war of light against the dark. That's where we're going here. Chanukah is not just a testimonial of something that happened prior. Chanukah is a present participle. Chanukah is a war which we have not yet won. You said it's another victory. I respectfully beg to differ, suggesting that maybe we haven't yet won the Kaneka War, and maybe we're still embattled in it, and we're still fighting this darkness. That's where we're going. Okay, we'll continue this.
And the battle is also within.
So, I have a comment coming in here. IDF has issued 1,000 arrest warrants to ultra-Orthodox who ignored draft orders. So what's the problem? You're suggesting to me that those rabbinical students who ignored the draft orders are, what? Are they the faithful or the faithless?
No, what I'm suggesting is that we're often concerned about the enemy without. We have to be concerned about the enemy.
As I said on October 7th, I said this on October 7th. Enemies from without never posed an existential threat to us. It was only the enemies from within, the civil wars, that were the true existential threats. And I want to remind you, I called this a half a year before October 7th, and it wasn't my original. I heard it from Naftali Bennett when I met him in Palm Beach. He said, he warned me, and I quoted it his name, that twice already the Jewish sovereignty had fallen from civil war. And he said, we're teetering on the same. So you're posing a very interesting question. So who is the faithful and who's the faithless? Is the army the establishment and therefore the good side? Or maybe Torah needs to be incorporated. This is an existential battle going on here between enlisting the army into the army, all people. Does Torah have value in the modern state of Israel, or is it just an exemption for people that are invalid, incapable of serving? And I always say, I've said it to you before, and I'll say it again, that the strength of the Jewish people is not only in our hands, it's in our mouths as well. We have to be the voice of Jacob Torah, together with the hands of Esau. Only together are we able to draw God's blessing into our military actions and political actions.
Right.
Maybe win this war. Shkoyach. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll continue this series.